Hello everyone! Have you ever seen these kinds of bikes on the streets with all kinds of colors? Have you ever wondered what they do and why has it suddenly become popular in the world for the past 50 years? I was interested in this technology because of how often my family uses it when we go to a park. It always confuses me on how they track us and the long history behind it. So today, I'll be introducing this kind of modern technology that has been developing and improving, bike sharing. A bicycle sharing system, bike share program, public bicycle scheme, or public bike share (PBS) scheme is a shared transport service where bicycles are available for shared use by individuals at a low cost. I will be introducing this program from two aspects. Part 1, which includes the history, design, functions, and also the various communities it impacts. Starting off with the history, I divided it into 4 generations. The first one started in 1960, where Louis Simipinnick helped paint white bikes in Amsterdam and had them in public so everyone could use it. He claimed this was a political statement for pollution because of the number of cars growing around the city. This program was only for a few months, then led to a stop. The bikes were either stolen, vandalized, or confiscated by the police. The government also thought it was unreasonable and had no realistic purpose. But this wasn't the end of this significant idea. 20 years later, 2 designers invited Simipinnick to organize a new bike share. They also had made big changes. For instance, this was to answer business objectives. And by adding on that, the 3rd generation was born. Universities in England created bike-sharing systems which included docks or stations where people can borrow or rent after identifying themselves via their membership cards, smart cards, cell phones, or other methods. This was a sudden blast towards the world, and many countries started to become one of the members of this industry. And on top of this, China had an important role. It started the 4th generation of creating dockless bike-sharing stations in 2014 with the company OFO opening. The locking system would connect to your phone, and all you have to do is to scan the code sticks on the bike. It was easy and convenient, setting a whole global market system, and I will later introduce more in my video. And to be mentioned, the video will be focused on the 4th generation dockless bikes. Following up, the design for bike sharing is also a crucial part to form the whole system. Shared bikes are usually made in a big factory, and the factories assume themselves as the contractors. They would receive orders from bike sharing companies, for example, the biggest one in China, OFO. According to the Global Times, how shared bikes are made, from various parts to building them together, about 70 workers keep the assembly line going and produces around 2,500 bicycles every day. The bikes would appear with different colors, including bright yellow, blue, green, and orange. This is to alert cars and make them obvious under sunlight. Some companies have even invented night ones where they can glow in the dark, reported by CGT and Gongzhe. The article from fastcompany.com by Charlie Sorrell also describes how bike-sharing bikes are safer compared to daily ones. Road bikes are usually faster because of the higher position the seat is placed, which allows users to lean forward while riding it. The bike also has a lower amount of weight compared to normal ones and thin tires connected in order to ride swiftly. On the other hand, there will be multiple types of technology to support the whole renting system of bike sharing work. For consumers, people can grab a bike whenever they need and scan the code on it. From a company's POV cited from Madapinga, it will become much more complicated. They would have to create apps. Firstly, a login page for users to fill in their phone numbers and personal information. So in the future, the company can find users if they are facing problems. Secondly, the company should make QR codes analyzed by a program processor with each bike's names and codes included, so the users can scan it and unlock the bikes to pay the money for the distance they rode. Thirdly, a GPS controlled by satellites to help with the location information, to allow the companies to know where the customers are, and also give directions to go to your destination. And lastly, a payment method with all one's card numbers or payment passcodes. Some payment apps that would be commonly used between users are WeChat, Alipay, Apple Pay, These technologies that allowed bike sharing to happen, for instance, GPS, payment methods, and app designing, were strongly influenced by the development of the Fourth Industrial Revolution with the growth of technology. Moving on, the pros and cons of bike sharing will be the information provided now. The main communities that has been served by bike sharing are businessmen, students, and visitors. Shown in this quote from Cycle Simply, why bike sharing is way safer than riding your own bike. Riding a bicycle 10 kilometers to work each day will save about $1,700 per year in transport costs, including all running costs and depreciation. Also, bike parking is usually free, easy accessible, and more convenient than car parking. Dockless bikes means there isn't a specific stations users will need to park the bikes. They can leave it somewhere around the restricted area the app has shown on somebody's phone. Research from Queensland government also proves that bikes are often quicker than cars when the distance comes up to 5 kilometers. It would also be cheaper than a car rental. Furthermore, bike-sharing bikes are also functioned for visitors to travel around quicker and not as complicated as cars, since all are in a new city. It also leads to a healthier and greener environment than car driving, while using minimal fossil fuels and a pollution-free way of transportation. This was also the very first thought of why the creators started sharing bikes. Its original aim was to prevent more pollution from vehicle emissions. On the other hand, there have also been safety issues, which is the big section of the con. Some cities are renowned for their protected lanes and bikeways, while others barely seem to acknowledge cyclists' existence from Fox News. This could have reasons to do with the governmental policies, but also safety restrictions we should be aware of. Sometimes the bikes would also be thrown in the wild or the bushes. This could destroy a city's appearance, stated by CGTN News Gong Zhe. After analyzing the advantages and disadvantages, bike sharing has been mainly influencing one industry, which is transportation. Shown from Times, because the rising development of bike sharing, it decreases the chance of users to rent other tools, for example cars, scooters, and so on. According to Statistic.com, many companies have found out that even though their company is still functioning, the users are slowly decreasing. This will be elaborated more in the community section. Moving on, bike sharing has also been affected by the Fourth Industrial Revolution, while it is to establish a connection between digital and physical worlds that has revolutionized numerous sectors, shown from LinkedIn.com. In fact, billions of devices are already interconnected and more devices are becoming smart. This will cause another leap for bike sharing to develop in the future by having more advanced tools to track the bikes and having it not as complicated as it is restricting now, reported also by LinkedIn.com. Overall, that's it for part 1. Part 2, as I mentioned before, I'll be focusing on how different communities are impacted by bike sharing. There will be 3. The first one would be from the business aspect, which specifies to business owners. Believe it or not, every bike you see on the road now is actually owned by a company behind it. Let's take the most common one that happened in my video for an example. Yellow bikes are usually designed by the Chinese company Ofo. It has been the first sharing bike company opened, and nowadays is also the most popular and reliable sharing bikes in China, with more than $1 billion. It gained 20 million users across China, Singapore, and the UK, and because of that, more companies are rolled out in China, expanding this industry. For instance, Meituan, Line, Hello Bike. But on the other hand, because of the massive use of bike-sharing bikes, many traditional bicycle stores hasn't had a chance to sell their bikes where users can buy it. In this video, he claims that now his family is forced to move to secondary cities where the bike-sharing system is fully developed yet.
I haven't been able to sell my traditional bikes since the bike-sharing service began. We have only sold a few bikes since the start of the year. We might have to think of moving our business to other cities.
Thus, the business owners from stores are trying to change their target market and audiences. As we can see, bike sharing has been both beneficially and having a disadvantaged impact toward business owners, either if it's the bike sharing industry itself or it's the traditional bike industry, while selling them to different people. The second community I'll be looking at is the native people and factories in China that are affected by this industry. As we all know, in addition to its low labor costs, China has become known as the world's factory because of its strong business ecosystem, lack of regularity, compliance, low taxes, duties, and competitive currency practices. Therefore, a lot of companies have set up their production line in China, for instance, Apple, Sony, Samsung, and Microsoft. From this, a lot of bike-sharing businesses have also chosen China to become the production factory. Collaborating with bike-sharing companies will help boost our production volume, Wang added. After Phoenix, a bike manufacturer, signed a deal with OVO last September. The company added an extra 50 to 80% to its production capacity. The company has also announced last December that they plan to bring the bike-sharing concept to overseas markets, including Singapore, the UK, and the US. Just half a year, bicycle manufacturer used to struggle to survive, but nowadays, because of the whole new industry of bike sharing, workers are seeing a raise in their wages.
Our salary has risen by a quarter.
In Danyang, China's eastern province, manufacturers has been gathering a chance to expand their businesses by signing contracts with some of the most popular bike-sharing companies in the world. A majority of native people are a member of this factory and gets equally paid. Another example could be happening in North China's Tianjin suburb area, where it has produced the country's first bicycle, the Flying Pigeon. It has claimed itself as the contractor of the online sharing platform. Approximately 2,000 bikes can be made in a day, which is 15 seconds for every bicycle produced. The employees are young and bright, meaning they are motivated and design high-quality work. New orders from bicycle sharing startups are common every day and creates jobs in the greater Tianjin area. Tianjin has always been one of China's bicycle-producing hubs and provides new opportunities for the native traditional bike-making factories and workers. It has also increased the manufacturing industry GDP by growing 4.6% overall. Of course, there will be various problems caused by bike sharing and are mostly happening in China, which will be my third community, the government in China. One big difference between China's and America's bike-sharing bikes is docking. For bike-sharing in America, it would be needed to be picked from a dock and return them to a dock using cards or apps. It is easy for the city government to keep them tidy, and sharing companies could track them and remove them easily with a van. But however, in China, thanks to GPS chips in each bike, you can easily unlock one using a mobile app, and when you're done, leave it wherever you want. But this is the origin of all problems. Because there are generally no docks to park the shared bikes, customers parked bikes wherever they stopped. On many occasions, such bikes were parked disorderly in inappropriate places, such as fire exits. The random parking of shared bikes also blocked sidewalks and motor vehicle lanes, slowed down the traffic, and caused safety concerns. Many cities have been rules to regulate the total number of shared bikes and the places where they are allowed to be parked. I will be dividing the solutions from the guidance opinion in China from two aspects: regulations for the bike-sharing companies and restrictions for all users. First of all, focused on the parking lot, the government would increase bike lanes. There would also be signs to remind one if here is allowed to park. Following up, the government would create a guidance for the orderly distribution of bikes to allow a company to organize their bikes in a reasonable way. Furthermore, the quality of bike-sharing service. Proposed Shenzhen legislation further specifies that bikes distributed into bike-sharing services should install GPS locks and bear unique electronic codes. Bike-sharing companies must assign maintenance teams commensurate to the number of bikes distributed to conduct maintenance work and ensure the good condition of bikes. Bike-sharing companies are also encouraged to purchase personal injury insurance for customers. And last, the data sharing platform and data privacy protection. Bike-sharing companies must submit information to the local government in a timely manner in order to allow the government to regulate based on the accurate data. Information includes distributed bikes, distributed regions, and so on. Most importantly, the personal information shall be just used for bike-sharing companies, but not other services. On On the other hand, there would also be restrictions set for users. As we can see from this video, people would throw away bikes on purpose in inappropriate areas, and because of this, according to the Article 264 of the Criminal Law of the People's Republic of China, theft of public and private property, a large amount or repeated theft with a murder weapon, pickpocketing, shall be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of less than 3 years, and a fine if the amount is particularly large or has other particularly serious circumstances. The app has also been setting a deposit recipe to make sure you give the money back if the bike is lost or damaged. Mentioning this, there would also be parking restrictions. According to Article 59 of the Road Traffic Safety Law, provides that non-motorized vehicles shall be parked at the prescribed location. No parking place, non-motorized vehicles parked shall not impede the passage of other vehicles. Some changes that are made based on the law regulations would be to add a page of the rules you must consider while renting this bike in the app. It will be shown before you unlock the bike, and you must click yes in order to move forward. However, there are still these types of problems happening in China, but I believe this will slowly decrease with the reinforcement protection of the apps and users' rights spreading slowly. I also hope that the companies would slowly recognize and pay attention to these types of problems. In conclusion, after the accurate analysis of the development of bike sharing, some generalizations could be made. Obviously, in my perspective, bike sharing would further advance and improve by how mature the system will be in the future. Even though it is now facing some problems, including the lack of organization and parking, but however, I would believe the government would set more policies and spread them towards the world. But again, no matter what, bike sharing has been allowing our lives to become more convenient and efficient while using a small amount of pay. Bike sharing is also building an eco-friendly system that will benefit all users who requires this condition. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope after understanding it, we can look from different aspects while discussing bike sharing.